When Jackie divorced Doug, the whole world was left AB. She was seeking $300 million, an amount so ridiculous that nobody could believe how a happy-looking couple like this could just fall apart. In such a way, Jackie first played the role of an agony wife. She made everybody believe that she had no other choice than to leave as Doug had betrayed her and insulted their marriage. The media lost its mind, blaming Doug for being a poor husband who didn't deserve his fortune and for being a cheat and liar soon after the public started turning against him. But Doug was finally ready to tell the other side of the story. His account of events was very different, and he had no intention of staying quiet, while Jackie did tearful interviews and played the victim as well as battling for his money. Doug was also battling for his reputation. While working in secret, he wasn't going to let Jackie's lies destroy the years of hard work he had invested in establishing his career. But the fact that Doug had evidence proof that could change everything made this case even more shocking at first. Jackie's lawyers were sure they had made Doug the villain and believed they had all the evidence they needed to prevail. Jackie claimed that she had sacrificed all for Doug's success. She said Doug would not be where he is today. If it was not for her, people asked her to call Doug, even though Doug was a self-absorbed person who had deserted the woman who had been with him. This was bigger than it. This was about secrets, and Doug had a huge secret that Jackie did not expect him to reveal. Doug kept calm as tension grew, making Jackie think she was in charge, but behind the scenes, he was getting ready for the biggest fight of his life. When the moment arrived, he had the finest investigators and lawyers on staff, along with records that could destroy Jackie's case at a moment's notice. When Doug's legal team emerged, they were willing to reveal something so shocking that Jack's attorney was concerned. Reporters, supporters, and legal experts filled the courtroom waiting for Doug's next step for weeks. Jackie felt she had everything in control as she sat next to assurance she had made sure everyone felt sorry for her and portrayed Doug as the bad guy, but she didn't know what was going to occur. Doug's attorney stood up with a folder that would make all the difference. He walked over to the judge and handed her the documents as he read them. The judge's expression changed, and he then addressed Jackie's lawyers. "Do you want to expound on this?" The room grew silent. Jackie whispered something to her lawyer as she fidgeted uncomfortably in her chair, but it was too late. Everything had already shifted. Doug had just totally reversed the case. Doug was revealing Jackie's falsehoods in addition to defending himself. As per the documents, Jackie had been hiding money. She had misrepresented her financial status and made up information to make herself out to be the victim. Now the same woman who told her that Doug had lied to her was tangled in her own life. The situation grew even more shocking when it became apparent that Jackie could be in serious legal trouble, and that this was no longer merely a divorce case. While feigning poverty and asking for $300 million from Doug, Jackie had secretly transferred millions of dollars into secret accounts. According to testimony given by Doug's attorneys, there was a gasp in the courtroom. Jackie's self-assured look vanished in a flash. The most celebrity divorces are sensational of affairs, but this one was getting to be more than that. It was getting to be a tremendous scandal. Not only might Jackie lose the case, but she could even be charged with financial fraud. The truth was now revealed, and the most unbelievable aspect was that Jackie wasn't alone in the scam. Doug had known the truth the whole time, which is why he had kept quiet and let Jackie believe she was winning. Doug had one final secret to reveal, one that would completely destroy Jackie's carefully built reputation. Jackie's face went white and her hands trembled as she read the documents. Everyone in the courtroom was gazing at her in shock, but Doug wasn't finished. He leaned forward and said, "Jackie, you have lied about everything, not only the money," in a calm but firm tone. The judge addressed Jackie's lawyer, who was just as surprised as everybody else, and awaited a reply. Jackie's voice shook as she finally uttered, "These words are out of place." Things were going to get even more volatile. "But Doug is attempting to sabotage me because he doesn't want to pay," with a cold smile. Doug's lawyer brought out a new batch of documents and handed them over to the judge as the judge read. His eyes widened. "When you treat people poorly, they don't remain loyal forever," Doug's attorney stated with a chuckle. "Everyone who assisted you to arrange this, including your aide, turned against you." "Jackie, do you have anything to say on your behalf?" the judge asked. Looking at her, Jackie realized she had no escape, and she was gasping heavily now. Then she did something no one had expected. She filled the courtroom with a sour, icy laugh. Jackie smiled and shook her head. "Do you think I've lost due to this?" I said, she said. "Doug, you don't know me. I have a plan B at all times." Doug's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" Jackie spoke in a low, menacing tone as she leaned forward. "Did you really think I didn't cover my tracks while doing all of this? I'm not going down alone." "If I do," Doug's attorney scowled, "is the dangerous?" Jackie's tone mellowed and became even gentler. "I know something, Doug. Something nobody wants you to know. I'll use it if you ask me to." Doug shook his head after not saying anything for a good while whilst intently studying her. "Jackie, I'm not afraid of you." The judge employed the gabelle. "Long enough, people began to empty the courtroom, so we'll get a hasty break prior to proceeding." Jackie cast a glance in Melissa's direction. "You'll regret you've done this." Melissa looked straight into her eyes. "No, Jackie. I'm sorry I was silent for so long." Doug had watched Jackie being led away. He knew that this wasn't over. So he left her lawyer alone. Despite Jackie having some trick up her sleeve, he was ready for her this time when the trial resumed. Doug was out to win because this battle was now about justice, not money. The courtroom became silent as Doug's lawyer stood up. "Jackie's assets are frozen pending further investigation into financial fraud, and her higher alimony request is denied next week. The court will meet once again to deal with possible legal consequences." At last, Jackie lost her temper. She stood up and shouted, "You can't do this to me. Please, let's talk, Doug. We can fix this." Doug gave her a cold stare as he spoke, but his face betrayed everything. Jackie opened her mouth, but nothing emerged. She had finally been faced with the reality, and this time there was no going back to talk about me with the media, like you talk about me behind my back with the investigators. Doug's voice was cold and cutting. "We're most likely finished talking, Jackie." There was strained silence in the courtroom. Jackie slowly returned to her seat as the best friend stepped forward. Her previous role of authority had disappeared, and the meticulously planned and executed deceptions she had built had been revealed. Melissa avoided looking because she felt guilty. Maybe she should have warned Jackie earlier and stopped it. But it was too late, the damage had already been done. Doug stood up and headed in the direction of the door. His lawyer followed close behind. Jackie's destiny was sealed, but the case wasn't yet over. She was completely lost. Journalists rushed towards Doug as cameras flashed as he walked into the hallway. His lawyer firmly told him no comment. Doug was free at last for the first time in years because the truth had already spoken itself. Jackie was in a bad place. If she admitted hiding money, she could be liable for serious legal consequences. But if she denied it, there was already evidence that she was lying. And worse, the more Doug's lawyer uncovered, the worse things were for Jackie. "This is lying." Doug's lawyer firmly declared that she tricked the system to gain sympathy while secretly protecting her own personal fortune. Jackie began to breathe unsteadily. The world saw her meticulously built image crumble in real time, with journalists typing furiously and cameras snapping. She had portrayed Doug as the bad guy for months, but things had turned unexpectedly. She was the real villain. The judge rubbed his temples and let out a heavy sigh. "I will need more time to deliberate the evidence in the light of these new facts before making a decision." But Doug wasn't finished. His voice cut through the din of the courtroom as he leaned forward. "I have one last thing to say, and that is the moment when everything shifted." The room came to a standstill when Doug uttered those next words. Tension was palpable in the air. Jackie, who used to sit with assurance, now shook her body. Her breath was shallow as her fingers clutched onto the table's edge, but what followed was even more startling. Doug inhaled deeply before turning to face Jackie. "I kept silent for years," he said. "I gave you permission to distort the facts. I gave you permission to present me in a bad light. I gave the impression that I was guilty." He then stood before the judge. "It's time to relate the true story, though." When Jackie's lawyer tried to interrupt, Doug's lawyer raised a hand. "Your Honor, we have audio recordings and leaked emails that show Jackie planned this from the beginning." It rocked the courtroom. Jackie's entire scheme was going to be exposed. The first recording was played by Doug's lawyer. "I'll make him pay for all of this." Jackie said, filling the room with her voice. He thinks that he is smart, but he will never see this coming. Then the screen showed an email months earlier. She even went so far as to file for divorce. Jackie had sent this message to her financial advisor. Before I take him to court, we have to transfer the funds. I wanted to make it look like I had nothing. My case is stronger the worse I look. There was silence in the room. Jackie's argument had just been destroyed by her own words. The judge's face grew stern. Do you understand how serious this is, Miss Christie? Jackie opened her mouth, but nothing emerged. The most shocking thing of all was that she had not only been dishonest, but she had planned the whole divorce hearing to make Doug look bad and get as much money as possible. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear while bending down Jackie, but shook her head. She was not going to give in, but it was clear that her case had just disintegrated before everyone's eyes. Doug stood up. After all that you put me through, dragging my name in the dirt, lying to the world, attempting to destroy my life, I had no option but to deal with this in private. He stated, I am requesting an immediate dismissal of this case and complete damages for the financial and emotional damage she has inflicted upon me. He stated to the judge. The judge nodded slowly, stating, I don't see any reason for this case to proceed. Given the overwhelming evidence, he then faced Jackie. I advise you, Miss Christie, to be ready for the fallout from your behavior. Jackie sat motionless. Everything she had planned had suddenly fallen apart. What was unique about this story, despite her belief that she could outsmart everyone, she ultimately played herself outside of the courtroom. Reporters had already announced Jackie Christie's shocking demise. Doug left at last. His name was cleared. Reporters yelled questions and cameras flashed, but Doug kept on walking. He didn't need to talk. Suddenly, the $300 million divorce case had fallen apart in the most unbelievable manner, leaving Jackie, who had once been strong and untouchable, with nothing but regret.